The Velar had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their empire was huge. It covered hundreds of star systems. They had conquered many species. Some they killed. Some they made into slaves. No one had ever stopped them. When their ships first found Earth, they laughed. The humans were so young. They had only been in space for 200 years. Their ships were small. Their weapons were weak. The Velar called them a harvest species. This meant they would take humans as slaves and use Earth for resources. High Commander Tovik was in charge of the attack. He was old and had conquered many worlds. He thought humans would be easy. He sent a small fleet of 300 ships to the outer human colonies. He did not even go himself. He thought it was not worth his time. The colonies fell fast. Kepler Prime was first. The humans there had no warning. Velar ships appeared in the sky and started bombing the cities. 14 million people died in the first day. The survivors were put in chains and taken to Velar slave ships. New Singapore was next. Then Port Darwin. Then Harmony Station. Each time, the story was the same. The Velar came without mercy. They killed anyone who fought back. They took everyone else as slaves. Back on Earth, people watched the news in horror. Families cried for their lost loved ones. Governments held emergency meetings. The whole world was afraid. Admiral Park Dae-ho was not afraid. He was angry. Dae-ho was 62 years old. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 40 years. He had gray hair and a stern face. His eyes were cold and hard. He had seen many battles in his life, but nothing like this. He stood in the war room of Earth Command. Around him were the best military minds on the planet. They were looking at maps and reports. The news was all bad. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Hana walked up to him. She was his tactical officer. She was young but very smart. She had short black hair and serious eyes. "Sir, we have confirmed numbers," she said. Her voice was quiet. 30 million humans are now slaves. 14 million are confirmed dead. We have lost 4 colonies. Dae-ho said nothing. He just stared at the screen showing the lost colonies. "The United Earth Council wants to know our options," Hana continued. "Our options?" Dae-ho finally spoke. His voice was calm but cold. "We have one option. We fight. Sir, with respect, our fleet is small. We have maybe 200 warships. The Velar have thousands. Our technology is far behind theirs. I know. Then how can we win?" Dae-ho turned to look at her. There was something dangerous in his eyes. "Do you know why humans have survived so long, Hana? We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. We are not the smartest. But we are the most stubborn creatures in the universe. When something tries to kill us, we do not give up. We find a way." Hana was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. "What do you need me to do?" "Get me everything we have on Velar technology. Every scan, every report, every piece of wreckage. We are going to learn how they work. And then we are going to build something that can kill them." The next few weeks were chaos. Earth had never united for war like this before. Every country put aside their differences. Every factory started making weapons. Every scientist worked on new technology. Fleet Admiral Choi Seung-min took charge of the secret project. She was a small woman with a sharp mind. She had been building ships for 30 years. Now she had the biggest job of her life. "We cannot beat them with numbers," she told her team. "So we will beat them with size and power. We will build the biggest warships the galaxy has ever seen." Captain Baek Ji-ho was her chief engineer. He was a quiet man who loved machines more than people. When Seung-min told him what she wanted to build, he smiled for the first time in years. 3 kilometers long, he said, reading the plans. 5,000 fighters each. Weapons that can break through any shield. He looked up at her. This is impossible. I know, Su-min replied. How fast can you do it? If we use every resource on Earth, Mars, and the Moon. Maybe 18 months. You have 14. Ji-ho did not argue. He just went to work. Meanwhile, the Velar continued their attacks. They moved slowly toward Earth. They were in no hurry. They had time. Or so they thought. In the Velar command ship, High Commander Tovik received reports about the human response. He read that Earth was building new weapons. He read that humans were working day and night. He laughed and threw the reports away. Let them build, he told his officers. Let them hope. It will make their despair sweeter when we crush them. His officers laughed with him. They had conquered hundreds of species. Humans would be no different, but Tovik made a mistake. He did not study human history. He did not know about their wars. He did not know that humans had spent thousands of years learning how to kill each other. He did not know that when humans got angry, they became very, very dangerous. On Earth, Admiral Park Da-ho looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of his people were in chains. Somewhere out there, the Velar were laughing. Laugh while you can, he whispered to the night sky. We are coming. Deep under the surface of Mars, something big was happening. The old mining tunnels had been changed. Now, they were the biggest shipyard in human history. Thousands of workers moved like ants in the darkness. They worked in 3 shifts. They never stopped. Fleet Admiral Choi Sung-min walked through Hangar 7. Above her head, held by invisible force fields, was the ship called Avalanche. It was 3 kilometers long. It was black and covered with weapons. It was the most dangerous thing humans had ever built, and there were 200 more just like it being built in secret. Captain Beat Joho walked beside her. He looked tired. He had not slept more than 4 hours a night for months. But he was smiling. We are ahead of schedule, he said. The first 50 ships will be ready in 2 months. All 200 will be done in 12 months. Sung-min nodded. And the weapons? Better than we hoped. We studied the Velar shields. We found a weakness. Our new plasma lances can break through them like paper. This was good news. The biggest problem with fighting the Velar was their shields. Normal weapons could not hurt them. But the plasma lance was different. It used a new kind of energy that the Velar had never seen. Show me, Sung-min said. Ji-ho led her to a testing room. On one side was a small plasma lance cannon. On the other side was a piece of Velar shield technology they had taken from a crashed enemy ship. Watch, Ji-ho said. He pressed a button. The plasma lance fired. There was a bright blue flash. The Velar shield glowed for a moment, then exploded into pieces. Sung-min allowed herself a small smile. Good, what else do you have? Come with me. They walked to another part of the base. Here, the best scientists on Earth were working on enemy technology. They had taken apart Velar engines and computers. They had studied everything. A young scientist named Kim So-ra ran up to them. She was only 28, but she was already famous for her work on space travel. Her hair was messy, and she had coffee stains on her coat. She had not left the lab in weeks. Admiral, you need to see this, she said. Her eyes were bright with excitement. She led them to a large machine covered in wires and screens. It hummed with energy. We cracked their jump drive, Sora explained. Not just copied it. We made it better. Better how? Sung-min asked. The Velar can jump through space, but they cannot be precise. When they appear somewhere, they might be off by thousands of kilometers. That is why they always jump far from their targets and fly the rest of the way. Sora grinned. Our version is different. We can jump to within 100 meters of where we want to be. Sumin understood immediately. This changed everything. The Velar liked to fight from far away. They would shoot from a safe distance and use their numbers to win. But if human ships could appear right next to them, "Can you put this in the Supercarriers?" she asked. "Already started. Every ship will have precision jump capability." On Earth, Admiral Park Daiho was training pilots. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. They practiced in simulators day and night. They learned how to fly in close combat. They learned how to attack in tight formations. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Hana watched them train. She was impressed. These pilots were good. Better than good. They flew like they had been born in space. "They are ready," she told Daiho. "No," he replied. "Not yet. Train them harder. When we fight the Velar, there will be no second chances. Every pilot needs to be perfect." "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, the Velar kept advancing. They took 2 more colonies. They were getting closer to Earth, but they were also getting careless. They thought the war was already high. Commander Tovik received a report that humans were building new ships. His spies had seen activity on Mars, but they could not get close enough to see what was being built. "How many ships?" Tovik asked. "Unknown, High Commander. Maybe 20 or 30. Tovik laughed. 30 ships against our thousands? Let them come. It will be amusing." He did not know about the 200 supercarriers. He did not know about the plasma lances. He did not know about the precision jump drives. The humans had hidden their secrets well. Back on Mars, the work continued. Workers welded metal. Engineers checked systems. Scientists ran tests. Everyone worked toward the same goal. Fleet Admiral Choi Soo-min stood on a platform overlooking the main hangar. Below her, 20 supercarriers were nearly complete. Each one was a monster of metal and fire. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a city. Captain Oh Tae-yang joined her. She was young for a captain, only 35. But she had proven herself in many battles. She would command one of the supercarriers. "It is beautiful," Tae-yang said, looking at the ships. "It is death," Soo-min replied. "Death for our enemies. Do you think we can win?" Soo-min thought about the question. The Velar had ruled for 12,000 years. They had never lost a war, but they had never fought humans before. "Winning is not enough," she finally said. "We need to destroy them so completely that no one ever thinks about attacking Earth again. We need to make the galaxy afraid of us." Tae-yang nodded slowly. "Then we will make them afraid." The months passed. The ships grew. The weapons got stronger. The pilots got better. And all across human space, people waited and hoped. They did not know what was coming. They did not know about the supercarriers or the new weapons. They only knew that somewhere, someone was fighting for them. Admiral Park Dae-ho looked at the calendar. 3 more months until the fleet was ready. 3 more months of waiting while the Velar got closer. 3 more months of watching his people suffer. He closed his eyes and made a silent promise. Soon, very soon, the Velar would learn what happens when you hurt humanity. They would learn that some species are not meant to be slaves. They would learn to be afraid. The day finally came. High Commander Tovik brought his fleet to Earth. 1,500 Velar warships filled the sky like a dark cloud. They were the biggest fleet ever sent against a single world. Tovik stood on his command bridge. He looked at the blue planet below. It was pretty. It would make a good slave world. The humans would work in mines and factories. They would serve Velar masters for the rest of their lives. "Signal them," Tovik ordered. "Tell them to surrender. Anyone who gives up now will be treated well. Anyone who fights will die." His communication officer sent the message. They waited for a response. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky. They saw the enemy ships blocking out the stars. Many cried. Many prayed. Many held their families close. But in the secret command center deep underground, Admiral Park Dae-ho smiled. "Is the fleet ready?" he asked. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Hana checked her screens. "All 200 supercarriers are in position behind the moon. All pilots are in their fighters. All weapons are charged." "Good." Dae-ho stood up straight. "Open a channel to the Velar commander." "Channel open, sir." Dae-ho spoke calmly. His voice went out to every ship in both fleets. It went out to every home on Earth. It went out to every slave colony in human space. "This is Admiral Park Dae-ho of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You have attacked our colonies. You have killed our people. You have taken our families as slaves. We gave you no reason for this. We did nothing to harm you." He paused for a moment. "You have one chance. Leave this system now. Release all human slaves. Go back to your own space and never return. If you do this, we will let you live." On the Velar command ship, Tovik laughed so hard he almost fell over. His officers laughed with him. A primitive species making demands. It was the funniest thing they had ever heard. "Respond," Tovik said between laughs. "Tell them we reject their offer. Tell them to prepare for slavery." The message was sent. Dae-ho received it. His smile did not change. "They refused," Hana said. "I know. I expected them to." Dae-ho pressed a button on his console. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. Execute jump." Behind the moon, 200 supercarriers activated their precision jump drives. Space itself seemed to bend around them. Then they vanished and appeared right in the middle of the Velar fleet. The Velar sensors went crazy. Alarms screamed across every ship. Tovik stared at his screen in shock. Where there had been empty space a second ago, now there were massive ships. Ships bigger than anything the Velar had ever built. Ships covered in weapons that glowed with blue energy. What is this?" Tovik whispered. The human supercarriers formed a perfect crescent around the Velar fleet. Their weapon ports opened. Thousands of fighters launched from their hangars. The sky filled with human ships. Dae-ho spoke again. His voice was still calm, almost friendly. "You have 60 seconds to begin retreat. This is your last chance." Tovik finally found his voice. "All ships, attack. Destroy them." The Velar fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams shot toward the human ships. The Velar weapons were powerful. They had destroyed countless enemies before. The beams hit the human shields. The shields held. Now it was humanity's turn. "All ships," Dae-ho ordered. "Fire at will." 200 supercarriers fired their plasma lances at once. The blue beams cut through space like knives. They hit the Velar shields. The shields collapsed instantly. The first wave of fire destroyed over 300 Velar ships. Just like that, in seconds, 300 ships turned into expanding clouds of fire and metal. Tovik watched in horror as his fleet died around him. "How?" he screamed. "How is this possible?" No one answered. Another wave of plasma lances fired. More ships exploded. The human fighters were everywhere now. They flew between Velar ships, shooting and dodging. They were too fast, too small, too many. Captain Oh Tae-yang commanded the supercarrier Thunderstrike. She watched her fighters tear through the enemy formation. Her pilots were doing exactly what they had trained to do. "Focus fire on their command ships," she ordered. "Take out their leaders." The fighters obeyed. They found the bigger Velar ships and attacked together. One by one, the enemy commanders died. High Commander Tovik tried to escape. His ship turned away from the battle. His engines powered up to maximum. A plasma lance hit his shield. It collapsed. A second plasma lance hit his engines. They exploded. A third plasma lance hit his bridge. The last thing Tovik saw was blue light. The last thing he thought was that he should have studied human history after all. The Battle of Earth lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, more than 1,400 Velar ships were destroyed. Only 43 escaped to tell what had happened. The humans lost 12 ships. 12 out of 200. Admiral Park Daiho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. Around him, his officers were cheering and crying. On Earth below, people were dancing in the streets. The impossible had happened. They had won. But Daiho did not celebrate. He looked at the stars beyond the battlefield. Nah, he said quietly. Yes, sir? How many of our people are still slaves? Hana checked her data. Approximately 28 million, sir. Spread across 12 colony worlds. Daiho nodded slowly. Then we are not done. Signal all ships. Repair damage, reload weapons, and prepare for long-range jump. We are going to get our people back. Hana smiled. Yes, sir. Where do we start? Daiho looked at the map showing Velar space. 12 worlds. 28 million humans waiting to be rescued. We start with Kepler Prime, he said. That is where this began. That is where we will begin to end it. The human fleet began to move. The liberation had begun. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy like fire. Species who had feared the Velar for thousands of years heard the story. A young species called humans had destroyed 1,500 ships in 17 minutes. The immortal Velar had been beaten, but for the humans, the war was not over. 28 million people were still slaves. They were waiting in chains on 12 different worlds. Admiral Park Daiho would not rest until every single one of them was free. The liberation campaign began 3 days after the Battle of Earth. The human fleet jumped to Kepler Prime, the first colony that had been taken. The Velar had built a massive base there. 4,000 ships protected it. The humans had 180 Supercarriers. Many people thought they were crazy to attack. Fleet Admiral Choi Soo-min led the assault. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Avalanche. She looked at the enemy fleet on her screen. They have us outnumbered, her tactical officer said. Numbers do not matter, Soo-min replied. What matters is will. What matters is who wants victory more. She opened a channel to all ships. This is Admiral Choi. Somewhere down on that planet, millions of our people are waiting for us. They have been slaves for over a year. They have suffered. They have cried. They have prayed for rescue. Today, we answer their prayers. Today, we bring them home. The human fleet jumped into battle. The Velar were ready this time. They had learned from Earth. Their ships were spread out so the humans could not appear in their middle. Their shields were stronger. Their weapons were aimed, and waiting. It did not help them. The battle lasted 3 hours. The humans lost 8 Supercarriers and 40,000 fighters. But they destroyed every single Velar ship. Everyone. 4,000 enemy ships became dust and fire. When the battle ended, the human ground forces landed on Kepler Prime. Commander Kang Soo-bin led them. She was a tough woman with scars on her face and iron in her heart. She had lost her sister when the colony first fell. The fighting on the ground was hard. The Velar had built strong defenses. They had weapons that could kill a human from a kilometer away. They had soldiers with 4 arms and thick armor. But Soo-bin's Marines had something the Velar did not. They had rage. For 3 weeks, the Marines fought through the colony. They cleared every building, every street, every room. They found the slave camps and broke them open. They found the torture centers and burned them down. When Soo-bin finally reached the main Velar command center, she was covered in blood. Some of it was hers. Most of it was not. The Velar commander tried to surrender. He put his hands up. He said he would give them information. He begged for mercy. Soo-bin thought about her sister. She thought about the 14 million people who died when the Velar first attacked. She thought about all the suffering. "I do not have mercy," she said, "but I have justice." She shot him in the head. The liberation of Kepler Prime freed 4 million humans. They cried when they saw the Earth flags. They hugged the soldiers who rescued them. They finally believed they would see their families again. But there were still 11 more worlds. 24 million more slaves. The campaign continued. At the Battle of New Singapore, Captain O Taeyang showed what humans were really made of. She was supposed to wait for the main fleet, but she received word that the Vila were going to execute all the human slaves on the planet. If she waited, they would die. So she did not wait. She took her single carrier group and jumped straight into enemy space. The Vila had 3,000 ships protecting New Singapore. Taeyang had 1 supercarrier and its escort ships. Everyone thought she was committing suicide. For 6 days, Taeyang fought alone. Her ship was hit hundreds of times. Half her crew died. Her engines failed. Her weapons ran low on power. But she would not stop. She kept the Vila busy while evacuation ships landed on the planet. 2 million slaves were carried to safety. 2 million people who would have died were saved. When the main fleet finally arrived, Taeyang's ship was barely alive. The Thunderstrike was on fire in 3 places. Life support was failing. The bridge was destroyed. Taeyang was commanding from a backup station. Deep in the ship. She was still broadcasting defiance on all channels. Admiral Sung Min reached her after the battle. She found Taeyang standing in the ruins of her ship. The young captain was bleeding from her head. Her arm was broken, but she was smiling. "You are insane," Sung Min said. "Yes, Admiral," Taeyang replied. "But 2 million people are going home because of it." Sung Min could not argue with that. World after world fell to the human advance. The Vila fought hard. They sent fleet after fleet to stop the invasion. But nothing worked. The humans were too angry. They were too determined. They wanted their people back, and nothing would stop them. On the Vila homeworld, panic had set in. Supreme Commander Velnus called an emergency meeting of all surviving leaders. They gathered in the High Chamber to discuss what to do. "We are losing," Velnus said. The words hurt to speak. No Vila commander had ever said those words before. The humans have taken back 8 of the 12 colony worlds. Our losses are beyond counting. How is this possible? Another commander asked. "We ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. Because we never faced an enemy like this," Velnus replied. "Look at them. They do not fight for territory. They do not fight for resources. They fight because we hurt their people. They fight because they are angry." He shook his head. "And they will not stop until they have finished." "Then what do we do?" Velnus was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke the words that ended an empire. "We give them back their people. All of them. Every human we took. And then we pray that is enough to make them stop." The orders went out. On the 4 remaining slave worlds, the chains were opened. Human slaves walked free for the first time in years. But the question remained. Would the humans be satisfied? Or would they come for revenge? Admiral Park Dae-ho received the Vila message. He read it carefully. They were offering to release all remaining slaves. They were asking for peace. He thought about it for a long time. Then he wrote his reply. Admiral Park Dae-ho sat alone in his quarters. In his hand was the Vila message. They wanted peace. They would give back all the slaves. They would retreat to their own space. They would never bother humans again. That it was everything humanity had wanted. But Dae-ho thought about the dead. 14 million people killed in the first attacks. 400,000 soldiers who died in the liberation campaign. All the families destroyed. All the children who would never see their parents again. Part of him wanted to keep fighting. Part of him wanted to make the Vila pay for every single death. Part of him wanted to burn their whole empire to the ground, but he was tired. So very tired. He called a meeting of his top officers. Fleet Admiral Choi Soo-min came. Captain Oh Tae-yang came, her arms still in a cast. Commander Kang Soo-bin came, fresh from another ground battle. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Hana came with all the data. The Veeler want peace, Daeho told them. What do you think? Soo-min spoke first. If we keep fighting, we will win. We can destroy their entire empire. But it will take years, maybe decades. Many more of our people will die. Soo-bin was next. Part of me wants to kill every last one of them. For my sister. For everyone they hurt. She paused. But the people we came to save are free now. The mission is done. Tae-yang nodded slowly. We proved our point. The galaxy knows we are not prey anymore. Every species from here to the edge of known space has heard what we did. They will not forget. Hana pulled up some numbers. If we accept peace, we save approximately 200,000 human lives. That is the estimated cost of continuing the war. Daeho listened to all of them. Then he made his decision. We accept, he said. But with conditions. The peace talks lasted 3 weeks. The humans demanded many things. The Veeler had to release every single human slave. They had to pay money to rebuild the destroyed colonies. They had to give up all claim to human space, and they had to admit what they had done. They had to tell the whole galaxy that they attacked an innocent species. They had to say they were wrong. The Veeler agreed to everything. They had no choice. When the peace treaty was signed, Supreme Commander Velnus looked at Admiral Park Daeho. The alien's eyes were full of confusion. I do not understand you, Velnus said. You could have destroyed us. You could have taken our worlds. You could have done to us what we did to others. Why did you stop? Daeho thought about the question. Because that is not who we want to be. We are not conquerors. We are not slavers. We fought because you hurt our people. We stopped because our people are safe now. But you could have had an empire. We do not want an empire. We just want to live in peace. Daeho leaned closer. But remember this. If anyone ever threatens our people again, we will come back. And next time, we will not be so kind. Velnus understood. The message was clear. Humanity was dangerous. Not because they were evil, but because they protected their own. The human fleet returned home. They were greeted as heroes. Every city on Earth celebrated. Every colony held parades. The soldiers who fought were honored. The ones who died were remembered. Admiral Park Daeho stood before the United Earth Council. He gave his final report. The war is over, he said. All human slaves have been returned. All colonies have been freed. The Veeler have retreated to their space. They will not attack us again. Counselor Shin Mi-rae asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens now? What does the future look like? Daeho took a moment to think. The galaxy has learned something about humanity. They know we are young. They know we are peaceful. But they also know what happens when someone makes us angry. And what is that? We win, no matter how long it takes. No matter how hard it is. We win. He looked around the council chamber. That is our message to the galaxy. Leave us alone, and we will be the best friends you ever had. Hurt us, and we will be the worst enemy you ever faced. The council agreed. They voted to keep the fleet strong. They voted to keep building ships. They voted to make sure humanity would never be caught unprepared again. In the years that followed, humanity spread across the stars. They made friends with many species. They traded and shared and learned. They were curious and kind and open. But everywhere humans went, they brought their ships. The Supercarriers were always nearby. Always watching. Always ready. Other species noticed. They saw the massive human warships and remembered the stories. They remembered what humanity did to the Velar. They were polite. They were friendly. They did not cause trouble. Fleet Admiral Choi Soo-min retired after 5 more years. She spent her remaining days teaching young officers. She told them about the war. She told them about sacrifice. She told them about what it meant to protect their people. Captain Oh Tae-yang became an admiral. She commanded the fleet that explored the outer edge of the galaxy. She found new worlds and new species. She made peace wherever she could. But she always kept her weapons ready. Commander Kang Soo-bin stayed on the ground. She trained Marines. She built memorials for the dead. She visited her sister's grave every year and told her about the war they won. Commander Yoon Han-ah became the head of Earth's intelligence service. She watched the galaxy. She looked for threats. She made sure humanity would never be surprised again. And Admiral Park Dae-ho? He lived to be 93 years old. He spent his last years writing the history of the war. He wanted future generations to understand what they had done and why they had done it. In his final book, he wrote these words: "We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the smartest or the oldest, but we are the most stubborn. When someone threatens our families, we do not give up. We do not surrender. We fight until we win or until we are all dead. The galaxy has predators. It always has. But now those predators know something they did not know before. They are not the only ones. We are humanity. We protect our own. And we are not afraid." The book became required reading for every human child. The story of the war was told in schools and homes and ships. It became part of what it meant to be human. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, other species watched and remembered. They remembered the young race that had stood against the mighty Velar. They remembered the 200 Supercarriers that had changed everything. They remembered the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. Some species are not meant to be prey. Some species bite back.